The United States has recognized Venezuela's opposition candidate, Edmundo González, as the winner of last weekend's presidential election, despite President Nicolás Maduro claiming victory. The statement by U.S. Secretary of State Antony Blinken comes after days of pressure on Maduro to release the results of the vote. Government groups under Maduro's control falsely claim that he won the majority of votes, but independent election watchdogs and the opposition party say there is substantial evidence to show Gonzalez is the real winner of last Sunday's election. CBS News correspondent Lilia Luciano joins us now. Lilia, your reporting from Venezuela was so powerful. I just have to say that, first of all, friend. But let's talk about this headline. What does the U.S. acknowledging Edmundo Gonzalez's victory actually mean?
Well, basically what the U.S. is saying is what the rest of the world, except for those very few allies to President Maduro and to the regime. And it's funny that you were talking about prisoner swaps, because late last year, there was another one with Venezuela where the 10 Americans who had been held in Venezuela were released to the United States. The United States gave Venezuela a top ally to Maduro, who is now running major businesses there. But all of this to say, this was all part of the U.S. and Venezuela's agreements that Venezuela was going to have a democratic election. Few people actually believe that. Now, after a week, it's been, Sunday was the election. The opposition created a website. For the first time ever, we have this level of transparency where people can go in, enter their information, see their voting poll location, see what the results were from each table, and that has been tabulated. And now the results are that Edmundo González Urrutia won by double the vote than Maduro. The Maduro government and all of the institutions that are controlled by his loyalists, his closest people, are saying he won. We don't need to really provide, so far, the information or the evidence. So
right, and Maduro does not seem like he is willing to go quietly into
no, absolutely not. They're insisting. They're being very strong, for lack of a better word, with quashing down opposition protests. There are more than
talk to us more about the protests, because that is really something that I think, with all the other news, maybe hasn't gotten enough attention here in the United States.
Well, yeah, the protests have been ongoing, and the way that the government is stopping those protests has been very tough. We've seen videos of police beatings. At least a dozen people or so, or just under a dozen people are dead. Venezuela already had what organizations that follow and account for this, more than 300 political people who are considered political prisoners. There's more than 25 members of the opposition close to the leader of the opposition, Maria Corina Machado, who have been detained leading up to the election as part of limiting access to her campaign. There's 6 of them who were being held or are being held in the Argentine embassy. But because Argentina was one of those countries that did not acknowledge the result as the Maduro administration is publishing them, they broke diplomatic ties with Argentina. Those employees of the embassy had to leave the country, just as the Chile ones did. And now the Brazilian embassy has basically taken over the Argentine embassy and continuing to shield those 6 members of the Maria Corina and Edmundo staff. Ahead of the weekend, we're very concerned. Our visas for any observers, American journalists, which obviously there were very few, some from the newspapers, and us, we were the only ones from a major broadcast network, they expire. And the official date that you couldn't stay in Venezuela is tomorrow, Saturday. So basically, today was the last day that we could be there and covering this story.
And it's such an important story, not just because of the natural resources that Venezuela has and the troubled history that they've had in recent years, but also because of the international alliances. Talk to our viewers maybe who are less familiar with Venezuela about why this election is so important.
I think the most important part that our U.S. viewers have to pay attention to, Lana, is, of course, migration. The people we met in Venezuela, who are poor people who have been struggling for years, who voted hoping that there would be a change, said, I'm getting ready to leave to the United States. Everybody's expecting a mass migration event, just like the one that we've seen under the years of Maduro. And guess what? Today, the U.S. announced that they're having to freeze the parole program that allowed for Venezuelans and people from 3 other countries to ask for asylum if they have a sponsor in the U.S. and be able to go from their country, it's Venezuela, Nicaragua, Cuba, and Haiti, here to the United States. Today, that parole program was put on pause, meaning that the people from Venezuela who need to leave, who want to leave, who are planning to leave, have no choice right now but to cross the border, take that dangerous, potentially life-threatening trek, and hope for the best.
Lilia, so appreciate all your excellent journalism on this. Thank you.